All right, we saw the Victorian state budget come down on Tuesday. Billions and billions thrown around for healthcare and ambulances, all ahead of the November election. However, it's just likely to be another round of empty promises, according to a report from The Age today that revealed none of the 10 community hospitals promised by Premier Andrews on the eve of the last election have been built or upgraded. Not one. Let's bring in my panel to discuss this and more. From Melbourne, Director of the IPA, Gideon Rosner, and commentator Kosha Gada. Gideon, I'll start with you. All promise, no delivery, all hat and no cowboy. Is it any wonder Victoria's got a health crisis?
Look, it is no wonder Victoria's got a health crisis, but all the same, Peter, even though we haven't built new ones, the Commonwealth government and the states have been throwing money at hospitals, both sides of politics, for a very long time. I think it's time to face up to the fact that we don't necessarily get our money's worth on that. But, this is what Labor does. This is their budget papers with the branding showing health. This is the way they're trying to frame the election, not because they're good at it, but because they want to scare people into voting for them. That is textbook Labor. They use, people dressed up as ambulance workers and so on to make the same point. The question is, will they manage to frame the debate and coast to another term of Dan Andrews and the Labor Party? We'll have to see. Yeah,
will voters fall for it? Let's go to national security. A very willing debate today between the Defence Minister Peter Dutton and his opposite number, at least that's who we know the opposite number to be, Brendan O'Connor. Let's have a listen to the issue of boats.
You were responsible for the arrival of some 12,000 people on 184 boats. What do you say to the men and women of the Australian Navy who are still suffering from PTSD today from having pulled those bodies from the water of those women and children who drowned at sea?
We did try to put some things in place, and we'll never know if they were to work.
It's not often kosher we get a senior politician like Peter Dutton did today go the absolute jugular on all of the big issues in that portfolio.
That's true. In some ways, it was sort of Trumpian, I would say. Not that there's much similar to him with that, but sort of, being plain spoken, saying it how it is, owning up to things, going to town on a journalist. I think he did that with somebody from The Guardian. That is something that the base loves. And while some people may find it coarse or may say it's not very statesmanlike, I think there's a growing portion of the electorate that really does value that. And I would expect to see more of that from those who are bold enough to do it.
Right, let's go to the Sky News Kooyong debate today. The candidate, Monique Ryan, she had this stunning admission about Australia's borders. Let's have a listen.
I would end offshore detention for refugees. We need to increase our refugee intake by at least 50%.
So she wants 50% more people in terms of refugee intake. She wants no more offshore processing. I mean, honestly, Gideon, if she is successful and the Teals then get Labor over the line and put Albanese into the lodge, this will be the price, the dismantling of our border protection regime, surely.
Look, it may very well be what they demand. I can't see Labor being stupid enough to make a mistake a second time. I mean, don't forget how powerful Stop the Boats was as a Liberal Party slogan in 2010 and then again in 2013. That said, there will be pressure on Albanese to undo offshore detention and our strong response to offshore unauthorised arrivals, but not just because of these independent lunatics, but because of the people inside his own caucus. They are one national conference away from reneging yet again on this promise. The difference is, though, when these independents are kicking up a stink and trying to throw a spanner in the works with some stunt like Medivac, it'll be Labor on the Treasury benches. It'll be Labor in government having to deal with that. Good luck.
Kosha, when people around the world are looking at Australia as an example and they're copying it, and those that are not, like the United States, are having this surge on the southern border in particular, why on earth would Australians vote for people who will put this all at risk?
That's right. And I think, seeing less and less contrast between both parties is just a dynamic that you're seeing back in the US. You're seeing that here. And that's really a shame because voters really want more contrast on these issues. And they do not want these kinds of positions because they don't support it.
Well, on this point here, massive backflip from the Victorian Liberal Party today. Matthew Guy has reversed the party's opposition to treaty negotiations in Victoria between the Victorian government and the Victorian people with the Indigenous Victorians. Now, I think this is absolutely crazy. It's completely divisive, Gideon. It'll be the first step in the route to compensation and everything else. What on earth are Victorian Liberals thinking? I mean, this will cost them votes. It certainly lost my vote today.
Yeah, look, I like Matthew. I think he's doing broadly a good job. But look, the Liberals need to learn, as they always fail to, that you do not win from the left. You do not win from going the trendy route on social issues like this. But more to the point, it makes no sense. No nation can form a treaty with themselves. Either Indigenous people are Australians and Victorians or they are not. I would say they are, and therefore a treaty is an absurdity. But also, this is just on top another symbolic stunt, just like reconciliation or the national apology or changing the date of Australia Day or their voice to Parliament. None of it makes a difference on what the real national shame is, which is the fact that for generations we have had our first Australians living in third world conditions in a first world country. And all the virtue signal in the world might make white fellas feel better about this situation, but it won't do a thing for genuinely disadvantaged people on the ground.
Yeah, beautifully said, Gideon. I'll leave it there, you two. Very, very busy day, but thank you very much for joining me tonight.